self-deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do. I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors.
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy here, Joel Mugisha. And if you happen to come here by chance, kindly consider subscribing, like this video, drop me a comment on the comment section of what you think of today's video. So guys, on today's episode, we actually gonna be commenting on an Asian woman who has been actually going viral online for telling black people to stop using the race card. Actually, she has gone so viral that even she's telling white people to stop apologizing for being racist and saying that the white people of this generation did not do anything bad against the black people in history. You know, the history of black people. And this was so bad, guys, on the internet and so viral that even her own Asian community that has come and cancelled her. So guys, I want us to dive into today's episode and then I'm gonna come back and give my commentary.
Because I'm tired of black people using the race card all.
And I'm tired of seeing the same people who benefited from our fight for civil rights using those freedoms to pursue white validation. But I'm going to focus on something else here, y'all. Instead of me reading her the way that I normally would, I'm going to break her down for y'all and give you a lesson in White Adjacency 101 because she's a prime example. So first and foremost, keep in mind that this is an Asian woman and don't think she didn't factor that in when she said what she said. She knows that we can't push back and say that she doesn't know marginalization or she doesn't know what it's like to be mistreated by white people because historically speaking, the Asian community does. But she's allowing herself to be a spokesperson, if you will, for white supremacy because that allows her to maintain her position within it, which is white adjacency, because there's power there. But the reason she can disconnect herself from her history in a way that we can't is because her present looks very different. Black people are still actively fighting the same history, which is why we have to keep it in the forefront of our minds. We can't allow ourselves to stop being diligent because history is constantly trying to repeat itself. But in her community, things have advanced to a place where she can feel audacious. Clearly, if you think about it, that's probably true because when there's an influx of crime in the Asian community, what did we do? Stop Asian hate bill immediately. And I'm not saying that that shouldn't have happened. It should, but we don't see that type of quick action when it's black people. So she's coming from a place of privilege again, which stems from her white adjacency. And honestly, y'all, if you're paying attention, what she's doing is trying to conflate name calling with actual racism. Racism in this country is systemic, systems of oppression. They were built specifically to marginalize black people and then included people like her. She's talking about that in comparison to name calling white people. And don't think that she really cares about white people's feelings because she doesn't. She's saying this to secure her position within white supremacy because she's learned from her pale skin that there's power in being white adjacent. That's what she's protecting. And she's also highlighting her disregard for anybody else's experiences and also her lack of empathy, which again, I believe stems from white supremacy. She has this sense of entitlement about her that makes her feel validated in trying to reprimand or chastise us in our behavior. She thinks that we should play nice with our oppressor because the oppressors are no longer oppressing her the way that they used to, even though they're still treating us the same way. And if you notice, because there's a lot of layers here, she still has no empathy as far as how we're treated in the past or in the present. If you think about somebody and their traumas, right? You know that, let's say that somebody has a fear of dogs because they've been mauled by a dog. We expect them to be scared of dogs, to hate dogs, and not want to be around them. We don't get that same grace extended to us, even though we've had some of the worst atrocities committed against us by white people. Yet she sits here conflating feelings with systems. All we can do is hurt white people's feelings, but they can weaponize their feelings against us and use the systems created to hurt us. They can call the police, weaponize their tears and get us killed, get us fired. There's differences here. And that's what she's not saying. So y'all start paying attention to what's not being said because that's usually what speaks the most volumes.
I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors enslaved.
Dude, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Stop trying to be a pick-me girl. You sound so stupid. What was it about that video that made you feel so it wasn't even about you. That video had nothing to do about the Asian community at all, and you felt the need to insert yourself in for why. Your opinions don't matter, okay? And on top, like, I don't understand why we can't just get along. I don't understand why you felt the need to say some shit. Listen. The sooner you start realizing that we're all very similar, the more you will understand that we are all allies for a reason.
Tired of black people using the race card all
I just want to say that obviously not every single Asian agrees with her or thinks that way, and I think stuff like this sets communities back. So here are some quick reminders that will set things into perspective. Black people did not drop nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Black people did not drop Agent Orange in Vietnam. Black people did not put Asian people in concentration camps. Black people did not sign off on the Chinese Exclusion Act. As a minority in America, I'm very thankful for the black community for their sacrifices they have made for pushing the civil rights for minorities. I am not an expert in politics or social policies. I'm just a tech bro software engineer, but I do think that this is a prime example of why education on minority issues such as slavery and systemic racism should be taught more in depth in classes. I think another problem is that education around American slavery and its impacts isn't really taught around the world. So I just want to emphasize one more time that education around minority issues needs a revamp, not just in the United States, but also around the world. Because the current education around this stuff is evidently not working, because there's people in power who believe that slavery benefited black people, which is insane.
deprecating because of your ancestors' sins. Stop apologizing for something that you didn't do.
Nothing in that woman video had anything to do with you or the Asian community. You want to know something funny? Every Asian person I know will tell you that Asian people are some of the most racist people you'll ever meet in your life because y'all are racist to each other. Why are you worried about what some black girl is saying about white people? It ain't got nothing to do with you. Mind your own business. And everything is like deeper than what y'all thinking. It amazes me that everybody just don't understand. We didn't even gave y'all a whole analogy. The analogy is black people feel about slavery how white people feel about 9/11.
Tired of black people using the race card all the time and then be like, yeah, your ancestors enslaved mine.
As an Asian person, you cannot make an opinion on the black community and expect it to be respected. If you are not part of the community, don't talk about it. Just echo the voices or don't. That's it. Just because you're part of a marginalized community does not mean you can also talk over other marginalized communities. When you boggle down someone's entire position to them using the race card, you are just upholding the values of white supremacy. You're doing that. You're suggesting that race isn't a factor into how society treats people, denying systemic racism.
Because I'm tired of black people using the race card all the time.
Hi guys, so I want to talk about this video piece by piece, point by point. Before I get into it, I'm going to be referencing white adjacency a lot. If you don't know what white adjacency is, then I would encourage you to check out this creator's lovely response to Olivia. The first thing Olivia does is talk about the use of bleach demons, insinuating that it's some type of slur for white people. One thing that's important to remember about slurs across all demographics is that there is historical context and violence behind it, something that this term lacks. The next thing that Olivia does is try to censor herself in the argument, asking, do you have a word for Asians as well? Do you have a word for black people as well? There is a word for both demographics. One for black people is the N-word, which was created by white people. One created for Asian people is a CH word that was also created by white people, specifically whenever there was an influx of Chinese immigrants. So yes, there are words to dehumanize Asian people, but they weren't created by black people. She then brings up the next point where she says that she's tired of black people using the race card because they were enslaved hundreds of years ago. Now her use of hundreds of years ago is important. She's insinuating that racism stopped after slavery, as if we didn't get segregation, Jim Crow, police brutality, mass incarceration, gentrification, redlining, voter disenfranchisement. The list literally goes on. Next thing Olivia does is bring up the same old talking point that right-wing conservatives have. The idea that every culture had slaves. And I don't really understand this point because no one's arguing that every culture hasn't had slavery to some extent. I would just say that every single culture didn't have chattel slavery, nor did they have a racial caste system. Next thing Olivia does is bring up another right-wing conservative talking point. And I'm going to quote her now. And you know what the best part is? Native Africans kept slaves. They participated in the transatlantic slave trade. People bring this point up to say that, oh, well, even like black people were enslaving black people. But I think that people who bring this point up fail to realize that just because Africans have the same skin tone does not mean that they are all the same people. They are not a homogenous group. Not then and not now. This is where I get into Asian Americans having proximity to whiteness or adjacency to whiteness. Let me be clear that the only reason why the system of whiteness allows Asian Americans the benefits of white supremacy is because it is beneficial to the system of whiteness. It's called racial mascoting. You can get a demographic that was once heavily oppressed in the United States to say that racism doesn't exist. It makes other minorities look bad. Partially, I think that Asian Americans who hold this view know that their ties to white supremacy are incredibly fragile. It is again beneficial to keep Asian Americans on the side of the oppressor. Meanwhile, black people have gotten nothing like that. We never got reparations, and any time it's ever been brought up, it's been immediately shot down. You have to understand that just because you are no longer oppressed doesn't mean every other minority has that privilege. Let me be clear that whenever Asian Americans are no longer beneficial to the upholding of white supremacy, they will drop you too.
I'm done with you Asians who think having a race war with the black community is in our favor. No, it fucking is not. And y'all always want to bring up black people attacking Asians during the post-COVID era, which has happened a few times, but guess what, bitch? There are gonna be bad people in every race. Remember, anti-Asianness is always rooted in white supremacy, but a person of any race can be influenced by white supremacy. So those black people that attacked us were subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that Asians caused COVID. And if you blame black people as a whole for the anti-Asian hate crimes, you are subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that black people are inherently aggressive. And y'all Asians who are like, why aren't black people standing with us? Bitch, be grateful because they've always stood with us. Frederick Douglass in 1882 made the time to openly denounce the Chinese Exclusion Act while the black community was going through so much, such as rampant lynchings against them. They worked hand in hand with us to free the Japanese people in the internment camps in 1942. And we directly benefited from black-led civil rights movements every single time. So stop blaming and demanding things from them and unlearn your anti-blackness first.
Yeah, guys, you just had that video of how this Asian woman has been going viral actually for deciding to say that black people stop using the race card, which actually insinuate that racism doesn't exist anyways. And she forgets that there is still systematic racism in places like Western countries, and police brutality and things like that, guys. And those are the things that are affecting black people. And this woman is actually trying to protect her white adjacency. For you guys who don't know white adjacency, watch the people who have been actually explaining this in the video. It means her proximity to whiteness. If we remove black people from the races, and then the closest thing to whiteness is her Asian race or her Asian community. But kudos to the Asian community, because she doesn't speak for all Asian people for actually canceling her, because she's trying to actually gaslight the struggles of black people in the United States, because these people have been going through a lot actually till to death. They are trying to fight for their rights. They're trying to fight for equality in job places. It doesn't matter who you were, and as long as you are dark skinned in Western countries, they treat you the same. Actually, police brutality is something that is affecting black people a lot. In fact, since then, there have been the famous movement of Black Lives Matters because of the struggles of black people, in Western countries. But this Asian woman seems to think that racism has ended. She actually telling white people to stop apologizing for racism, to stop apologizing because the current generation of palm-colored people are not the ones who actually enslaved black people, but the current generation of palm-colored people are the ones who are continuing the atrocities against dark-skinned people with their systematic racism, with their many things that they have put in place in systems that are against black people empowerment. Guys, these Asian have gone on to remind her that it is not the black people who actually committed atrocities in Asia. It is these white people that she wants to be next to, that she's worshipping, that actually went ahead and committed atrocities in Asia. Things like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We all know the story of the nuclear atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They are still being affected by the radiation in those places through generations and generations. People are born with abnormalities of things like 6 fingers, 6 toes, and things like that because of radiation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And also, it is not the black people who actually put Asian people in concentration camps and committed atrocities against them. The Asian community have come out loud and actually made sure to cancel her and make sure that she does not speak for all the Asian community. Yeah, so this woman has been going viral for that, guys. I don't know what you guys think about this, guys. So let me know in the comment section of, your own opinion of this, because dark-skinned people are still fighting systematic racism, are still fighting a lot in the Western countries. Actually, recently we are seeing countries in Europe which are actually kicking black people out and telling them to go back where they came from, to go back to Africa. And some countries are actually saying now, which I cannot mention, guys, this is latest news, now they are going to prioritize actually giving jobs to their own citizens, palm-colored citizens in Europe instead of black people. So if you go with if you go with an engineering degree to apply for a job, what they mean is that they will prioritize a palm-colored people, regardless of the fact that you guys have the same qualification, or even better, you might even have better qualifications, but they are going to be prioritizing their own palm-colored people. So what I can say is, we dark-skinned people, we have to come together, we have to unite, we have to build our own community, we have to build our own, we have to build our own empire, we have to build our own nations. And one of the things I want to say is that we are not the minority. Dark-skinned people might be minorities in Western countries, but on the global stage, we are not the minority. We are actually the majority. So if we come together, there is so much we can do together and make sure that we are respected all across the world, because all this undermining, all this, being looked down upon is because, black people for so long are not, for some reason, we are not agreeing to come together and build something together. And also, I know that that is not necessarily the fault of black people. There are so many black people who have, and black leaders in history who have actually tried that, but they have been tampered with, they have been unalived by white supremacists, making sure that dark-skinned people do not come together, do not agree together, cannot have anything together. So we are being tampered with, but we have to keep on being resilient, we have to keep on fighting, and in the end we have to win this war, we have to win this battle. Thank you guys for watching this far. It has been Joel Mugisha here, your presenter. Thank you very much. Consider liking this video, leave me a comment, guys, and also don't forget to subscribe. And as always, guys, see you on the next episode.